Hi, my name is Kevin, and I'm a zoologist. I had planned on doing about 5 minutes straight of triangle jokes, but so I'm just going to stick with circles or something. I don't know. So I'm a zoologist, and I'm also in my mid-30s. So I'm sure anyone in their mid-30s here, I'm sure they're there, right? You're on the wedding circuit, right? Every second week, wedding, stag, whatever, right? And the thing about that is you always have very similar interaction. How are you? What do you do, right? And I say, okay, I'm a zoologist, and I can see the excitement in their head, right? And I know where this is going to go, right? So they're excited right now. They're thinking, oh, this is going to be like Steve Irwin or David Attenborough or something like that. And I know I'm going to disappoint them twice. Once quickly and one drawn out. And so over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to disappoint you twice. So the reason that happens is they go, okay, you're a zoologist, cool. So do you work in a zoo? And this is the quick one, no. I work behind a computer, it's maths with triangles. Do you want to hear my triangle jokes? No, you don't. So that's fairly quick, right? And then they're usually very polite. So for example, I was at one wedding, a good friend of mine, and their partner was sitting beside me. And you know, it's a wedding table, they want to keep it light. So they go, oh, what's your favorite animal? Perfectly reasonable question, right? So people here, favorite animals, dogs, cats, horses, normal stuff, right? That's fine. When you ask me something like that, I'm freaking out. And this person straight away sees that, right? It's like a beach ball from the Mac above my head, as I'm just like freaking out. And the reason for that is the kind of stuff that I do. So I'm what's called a macroecologist. So that just means fancy words for big ecology. So big data. Only my data is not that big, it's kind of more medium data. And sometimes I'm feeling a little saucy with some speculative research, so it's kind of like medium rare data. But the general gist of it is I work on lots and lots of different animals. So, for example, I might be working across the whole animal kingdom, sometimes even plants. So when someone asks me that, what's your favorite animal? I've got I've got a lot to choose from. So it's kind of like the zoologist Sophie's Choice. So I'm sure you all know about Sophie's Choice. You have to pick one kid, it's very sad, woo-hoo-hoo. But to be honest, it's pretty easy. You've got a couple of kids, just pick one of them, right? You ask me, I go, oh, it's very hard, Max. But, you know, when you have to pick an animal, there's 100 million species of them. So which one do I pick, right? So this is where I'm freaking out. So the first thing I go to is like, okay, what am I working on right now? So I was at that wedding, and she's been very polite, and I go, oh, quick, what am I working on? Oh, yeah, that cool thing about parasites, right? So I'm working on lots of data, lots of different animals, which some animals have more gut parasites than others. So it depends on diet and other things like that. So grand, so I'm thinking tapeworms. Everyone's favorite. And as I'm about to go, yeah, tapeworms, I just see the dinner land down, which is pasta, which I don't know in Irish, but I'm just going to say it's pasta with a fada. And it's not just pasta, it's tagliatelle. So I'm sure everyone knows what tagliatelle looks like, and now everyone knows what a tapeworm looks like, right? So I said, no, Kevin, don't say tapeworm. I've actually literally made this mistake before where I was talking too much about tapeworms while people were eating pasta. Funny enough, people don't like you reminding them that the thing they're eating looks like a gut parasite. So, you know, you can't please everyone. So I go, okay, back to the drawing board in my head. So she's still looking at me going, this is like 10 minutes later, and I'm still trying to figure out what my favorite animal is. So I go, oh, something a bit easier. So one thing I'm working on is some species live longer than others. That's pretty clean, right? We'll stick with that. And in particular, in this research I'm doing, data on thousands of animals, and it's kind of like the physics of it, right? So the whole idea is you get all this data, and you're asking, okay, what are the general rules of nature? And one of them is big things live longer than small things, and in a very specific way. And that's really cool. So first of all, I go, okay, there's a couple of examples I can take. So there's big things like the Greenland shark, right? So a really, really big animal, lives in Greenland, it's a shark, does what it says on the tin, and it lives really long, so up to 500 years. So it really takes its time. It doesn't even become sexually mature until it's 100. So when I say it takes its time, it takes its time. Fair play, you're getting there in your own time. It's also the slowest moving fish. So I'm kind of going like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of good stuff here about my favorite animal. And it's so slow, we actually didn't know how it was eating because we know it eats seals, we find it in its stomach. But it turns out what it does is It waits for the seals to sleep in the water to get away from polar bears. And as the poor seal is sleeping, it just goes up and bites it in half. And I go, not the vibe at the dinner table right now. So parasites, we'll leave that one. Greenland shark, we'll leave the other one. But so let's look at the other end of the spectrum of the kind of animals I'm looking at. So there's really, really fast-lived things. So for example, there's a 7-figure pygmy goby, teeny tiny little fish, and it lives super fast. So it's like life in the fast lane. It only lives up to 8 weeks. So I did the maths, so that's only 4 million seconds, or 1 term of office for Liz Truss. So this poor fish couldn't even outlive Liz Truss. So that's a good example, but there's actually more. And it's like, I want to get the more interesting examples. That's just a quick-living fish. So there's other kind of angles of how you live. So there's some things that you can reproduce slow and steady, and there's some species that do it all at once. So the slow and steady things are things like albatross, really elegant animals. So there's one particular individual called Wisdom. She's 70, and she lays an egg every single year, and she's still going. So that's really, really nice. I thought it was a really nice example. I have in my office a big load of books, and it has every bird species. I have all the data in there. Still, I like to look up each species before I talk about it. So only the other day, searching the internet, and it comes down and says, fun albatross facts. You better believe I was going in there. I don't care if it was a dodgy site or anything like that, I'm in there. And they were pretty fun. But I loved one of them. So they mate for life. Again, elegant animal. Now, this is a kid's site, and it said, mates for life, lovely, in brackets, in inverted commas, with a little bit of wiggle room. And I could only hear that in my mind, in Barry White's voice, a little bit of wiggle room. So anyway, so that's a nice example as well. On the other end of the spectrum, you have animals that just go for broke, right? All in one go, we're reproducing and we're done. So there's the pouched mouse. So it's a marsupial mouse. So think of our mouse, go down to Australia, pretty much the same thing, with a nice little pouch. Lovely, right? Very cute. And this animal, right, so the males only live a year. Females can live a little longer, but when the males get to breeding season, they get to breeding season. So they drop everything. So they stop eating, their immune system stops, all their energy goes to one thing only, and that's riding. So they will literally ride themselves to death. There's so many observations where they find disheveled males, hairs falling off them, and they're still, if a female comes near it, they're up again and they're at it, and they'll keep going. So I was thinking about that example, and I was like, maybe I'll keep that for the stag next week, right? So it's not really the vibe in the table. So at this point, I'm going like, oh, okay, I know. I'll pick one of those weird examples that's not really the kind of general rule, the kind of a species that breaks the rule. And I've been thinking about vertebrates up till now. So vertebrates, they're like us, they're things with backbones. Invertebrates are actually most animals. So that 100 million species I said, most of them are invertebrates. And so the one I was thinking about, so it was an invertebrate, no backbone, so things like scorpions, crabs, tories, anything without a backbone. Tory joke is the easiest political joke you're ever going to do in Galway, right? I don't think there's going to be any in here, right? So the species I landed on was called the immortal jellyfish, right? And again, does what it says on the tin. It's a jellyfish and it's immortal, and it actually properly is. So how it works is it's a jellyfish, so this is my anatomically correct jellyfish, doing its jellyfish thing. And when it's a juvenile, it's basically an upside down jellyfish stuck to the bottom doing its thing. But as an adult, if anything goes wrong or gets damaged, it can actually turn into basically a big goop of cells and turn back into a juvenile. Then go back into an adult, things aren't working out, back to the goop we go, right, back to a blob. And it can do this forever, so it's this really weird skill it seems to have, right? So, you know, it's kind of like the monkey paw wish thing, you know, that kind of cursed wish. You get to be immortal, but you can only do it by going through school again, right? So, like, imagine we had that. I was kind of thinking, it's like, how long do you think we'd all live if we had that trait? So, again, I was at a stag, and it was like, well, there's no way you get to stag season, because you'd wake up in the morning and go, I broke it. This body's done. Back to the goo. And you probably wouldn't get through your teenage years either, because first spot appears, and you're like, no, this body's no good. Back we go. So, it has this amazing ability. So, I land on it and go to this poor person, the mains are done, the desserts are out at this stage, and I go, I have it, the immortal jellyfish. And he goes, that's really, really cool. And I'm kind of like, yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like, life finds a way. It's really amazing. She goes, oh, okay. And then she says, two things. You took that from Jurassic Park, that life finds a way. I was like, nope, I just came up with that. That's definitely me. And secondly, he's like, okay, how long did he actually live, right? So you said they were immortal. You didn't say they live forever. And it turns out they don't even live for a year. And it's such a classic evolution thing. These species have basically the keys to cheap debt, and they can't even get through 5 Liz Trusses. Come on. So I was like, okay, well, what's your favorite species? I eventually go. And she goes, well, actually, it's kind of a weird one. I work in medicine, and it's the tapeworm. So I'm there wondering, going, okay, I've learned 2 things. Number 1, always go with your gut. Unless it's parasites, then you should go to the doctor. And the second thing I hope you learned is, be careful why you ask a zoologist at a wedding. So thanks very much. It's been my pleasure disappointing you as a zoologist. So my name is Kevin. Thanks.